Hi boys and girls, it's Miss Rossi. Today we're going to get messy with an abstract flower printmaking project. Let's get started. What you will need for your projects today is a piece of paper. I'm going to show you it on white paper and on black paper. You're going to need a paintbrush, something to pour your paint on. I'm going to use a paper plate. You're going to need some different colors of paint for your flowers. I have a red and I have a pinkish purple. I also have some white paint here so I can mix my colors to be a little bit lighter. And then I have some colors for my leaves, so I have some different greens and I have a yellow. You are also going to need a CD today. Now you don't want to pick your favorite CD because we're going to be using our CD as our printmaking tool today. So it's going to get very messy with paint. So try and pick a CD that you or your family does not listen to or does not want anymore. I have my Rugrats in Paris, the movie CD from when I was your age, so I'm going to use this today. Once you have all of your materials, we can get started. Printmaking is a type of art that involves transferring an image from one material onto your paper or your canvas. So I'm going to make my image on my CD today, and I'm going to press that image onto my paper. So what I'm going to do is pour out some of my paints for my flower, and I'm going to print some flowers on my paper. I should be able to make maybe 3 on my smaller paper, and on my black paper, since it's a little bigger, I'll probably be able to fit 4 or 5. Some of them might not be full circles, and that is totally okay. And some of them might overlap, which is also okay. I'm going to pour out some of my paint colors for my flower. I'm just using craft paint today. You can use any kind of paint you have at your house. Watercolor paint might not work as well, but any other paint should work. Alright, so I got out my colors that I want to paint my flower. You can paint your flower whatever colors you would like. It does not have to be the same as mine. I'm going to take a little bit of my red paint to the side and mix in some white so I get a nice light pink. I need to use a lot of white. Let's see. That looks good. If I mix all this white. Alright, that's a good light pink. I can keep this as a nice dark pink. And then I have my purpley pink. So on my CD, I am going to take it and I'm going to paint on the bottom side, on the shiny side of my CD. I'm just going to paint little blobs of color all around my CD, kind of like curvy shapes, almost to look like petals. And I'm going to go all around my CD like this. You can do your CD all one color, and your flower will come out as all one color, but I'm going to mix some reds in here and big blobs of pink. I kind of want them to mix together on my CD, but if I do these curvy C shapes instead of painting it all one color, it's going to give me the effect of petals. And I like it when my paints don't all mix together. So if you see like streaks of white in some of my brush strokes, I think that's going to give it a cool look. But I'm just going to go in and fill in my whole shiny side of my CD here. That looks good. I'm going to put my brush to the side, and now here comes the printmaking process. So everything that I painted on this side is going to transfer onto my paper when I flip it over and press it down. Your fingers might get a little messy, that is okay. So I'm just flipping it over and I'm just pressing it very carefully, making sure I'm not sliding it just straight onto my paper, and then I'm going to lift straight up. And I'm going to get a pretty abstract design on my paper. I'm going to do the same thing 3 more times on here, so I can just paint directly on top of what I have here. If I even liked this enough, I could go right back in and press this down a second time and do a double print. So I'm just going to add a little bit more paint on here. I'm going to bring it closer to the center. And I might even paint the entire center red. And I'm going to press this down again. And I think I'll let it overlap a little bit and press it right here. Make sure I'm pressing the entire CD down onto my paper, making sure I'm not sliding it back or forth. And then I'm just going to lift it straight up. There we go, that looks cool. And if you do have any big gaps that you don't like, you can always go in with your paintbrush and add some more blobs of color on there. So I think on this one, I want to go in and add a few more blobs of red wherever there are any big gaps. And I'm going to bring that red in towards the middle. Just again doing that curvy C shape. And I'm going to do the same thing on this one where I'm going to add a little bit here and bring it closer towards the center. That looks cool. So again, I can press this directly on my paper one more time if I want to do a double print. So I did not add any more paint on here. I can see there's a little bit left over. There's not that much. It's starting to dry. But I can see what I'll get if I put it in this corner and I press it down and lift up. And I'm going to get an even more faded picture since there was less paint on my CD. But I can actually go in and print right on top of that again. So I'm going to get some more paint on my plate and I can paint directly on top of my CD and add more onto that print. And this one I'm adding even more blobs of like white and red so the colors can mix together on their own. I'm going to press that right on top of my old print and then lift up carefully. That looks awesome. And just like last time, I'm going to go in and add a few more areas of detail on here with my paintbrush. That looks cool. I'm going to let this dry for a second and I'm going to print on my black paper before I go in and I add any leaves. So on my black paper, I'm going to do the same thing, but the colors might show up a little bit differently. If you think your CD is getting too messy with too many mixed colors and you're not getting the kind of prints you would like, you can always clean this off with a paper towel and then start again. I added more white on this one. Since my paper is black, it's going to show up a little bit better than it did on my white paper. And I'm going to go in and do the same thing where I'm just going to press my CD down onto my paper, nice and firmly, making sure I'm not sliding it, and then lift it off. Ooh, that looks great. I love how the colors show up on my black paper. I'm going to add a little bit more detail on top of that centerpiece, just like that. And I think I'm going to go in with some darker colors where I have all this white and add a few more lines of detail in there also. I'm going to do the same thing that I've been doing. I might be able to fit 3 more on my paper, and then we'll start to add some leaves. And those are my 4 prints on my black paper. I really liked the way that my pinks and my reds and my whites blended together on this paper and how well you can see the white popping. I'm going to set this one aside so it can dry a little bit. And I have these beautiful abstract flowers on this paper that I printed. I'm going to get some of my green and yellow paints out and we're going to paint some leaves around the sides of these flowers. Alright, so I squeezed out some of my green paints here. I have a dark green that I'm using, a light green, and I also brought in some yellow because I like to mix my yellow with my darker green and get a brighter light green than the one that I had out of the bottle. So I'm going to use these 3 colors and I'm just going to paint some leaves next to my flowers. Now my leaves don't have to be perfect. I think I want them to be a little bit messy, and I want to mix my green colors together as I'm painting them so they match my messy looking flowers. But I'm just going to do some pointy shapes, almost like round triangle-y shapes coming off of my flowers. My flowers are still wet, so I need to be careful going around the edges of them so I don't mix my green paint in with my red. But since this is an abstract picture, if you do mix them together, it's not the end of the world, and it's still going to look cool. And that, I think, is going to do it for my flowers on white paper. If you want to go in with more of your flower colored paint that you use and add little mini flowers using your paintbrush, you can do that to decorate the background even more. But I like my white space on here the way that it is, and I think I'm going to let my picture dry just like this. I'm going to go back in on my black paper and do the same thing I just did by adding leaves in certain spaces, and then I will be finished. Is my black paper all finished and my white paper all finished? If you create one of these at home, be sure to share a picture of it with me when you are finished. I can't wait to see the awesome things you guys create. Try your best, have fun, and get creative. Bye!